Hey guys, this video is for anybody that recently bought a 2024 Wired Freedom and isn't sure exactly what the menu setting should be, like I was when I got it. Now, unfortunately, Wired does not give you very much information as far as what these menu options do. However, I reached out and contacted them and found out what every single one does and wrote it down on this piece of paper. And at the very end of this video, if you want to see a static, like a still picture of it, so that you can either copy it or use it for your reference, feel free to pause the video at the end and take advantage of that. I couldn't find it anywhere. I did see Citizen Cycle had a video about this, but he didn't keep the information all on one screenshot. It was all throughout the entire video. So I just wanted to put this out there for anybody that wasn't sure and wanted to keep a record for themselves exactly what each of these menu options does. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's get started with the menu options for the 2024 Wired Freedom. You'll notice this little key at the top. I put stars next to the items that you don't need to change, and I put a box around the ones that will relate to power settings for the bike, either increasing or decreasing them depending on what you put them to. Now, getting started, you'll notice the first one is LIM. That's going to be set to, I believe it's 32 or 36 kilometers an hour. That's about 25 miles an hour, 24 miles an hour factory. That's to keep it legal for shipping purposes. Now, if you want to increase and get the top speed of the bike, you're going to want to increase that to 72 kilometers an hour. So I have done that to my bike. You might want to do that to yours. If you don't want the full power, don't do this, obviously. The second setting is the DIM, which is dimensions. Now, this does ship with a 26 by 4-inch wheel, but the true size of the tire, which is larger, obviously, than the wheel, is going to be most accurate when set to 29 inches. The next one is unit. Now, this relates to the units of kilometers, Celsius, Fahrenheit, and miles per hour. If you set it to 1, you will get kilometers and Celsius. If you set it to 2, you'll get kilometers per hour and Fahrenheit. And if you set it to 3, like I have it set to, you will get miles per hour and Fahrenheit. Now, P1 and P2, you don't want to change. These are both related to the motor. The first one, which is P1, is going to be set to 80, and that is the motor gear reduction ratio. Now, for the hang time motor, it'll be 5:1. If you have a Bafang motor or any other version, this is not the correct setting, but I believe all of the 2024 Freedom bikes that are shipped will be with the hang tie motor that is 5:1. So the next one below that is the motor magnet pulse setting, and you don't want to change this. Again, those are both related to the motor. You should have them set. P1 should be 80 and P2 should be 1. Now, going down a little further is P3. This one is related to the throttle. So if you set it to 1, you'll have full power at all times on the throttle, which is what I have it set to, and I prefer it that way. If you have it set to 2, it'll be limited by the pedal assist setting that you have it set to. So for example, if it's set to 1 or 2, or you have it turned all the way up to 3, 4, or 5, it will limit the throttle relative to the power, to the pedal assist setting. So let's say you have it set to 2 and that limits the pedal assist to say 17 miles an hour. I'm just making up a number. That will also limit your throttle to the same amount. So if you want to have full power at all times, set your P3 setting to 1. P4 is the throttle is always on when set to 0. And if you set it to 1, it'll only work while pedaling. Now, I'm not quite sure why you would want this to be only while pedaling. It could make it a little safer because it won't be able to throttle while just sitting there, you know, without anyone riding it. But I would leave it, personally, I have it set to 0 so that it's always on. And again, that is the P4 setting. Going down to P5. Now, this is the battery size. So it's basically trying to determine how many cells you have in the battery and how long the battery is going to last at a certain voltage. So at 16, this is supposed to be the most accurate. Now, mine was shipped with Samsung cells. I'm not sure if that varies with if you get a Panasonic battery or not. I've heard that it's 16 to 18 is the most accurate depending which battery you have. But for mine, I'm keeping it at 16. Now, I believe this was at 8 when shipped. So check yours. The ones that I changed so far were the limit, the speed, and this one here, which is the battery size ratio, or whatever that number means. I think it's 0 to 18, or it might go a little bit higher, but 16 is the optimum size, especially if you have the Samsung cells. Now C1 and C2 are going to be for, well, C1 is the pedal assist sensor. You don't want to change that. You want to leave that set to 7. C2 is the controller type. So this supposedly is a square wave, not a sine wave controller. So you want to leave that set to 1. Okay, so for C1, you want to leave at 7. C2, you can leave at 1. And again, I'm going to have a picture of this, a static image at the end of this video if you want to be able to see all of this at the same time. Now C3, again, these boxed ones here are going to be power settings. So keep an eye. Again, this key will remind you if you're not sure why those are boxed or starred. Star means don't change them. Box means it relates to power. So for C3 is the pedal assist preset. Now 8 keeps the previously used setting. So if you want your pedal assist to stay wherever you had it set the last time you rode, put it to 8. If you don't want that, leave it at 0, which is where I prefer mine. Now, if you leave it at 0, that will start you with no pedal assist. If you leave it at 1 or 2 or 3, it'll start at that level of pedal assist. I like it at 0 so that I don't accidentally turn the crank and then it starts going by itself. Plus pedal assist, you know, I don't use it as often, but if I do, I'm going to probably set it depending on where I'm at in the conditions and how slow I want to go or how fast I want to go. C4, the next one down, is your throttle wattage level. Now 0 is full power, and then 1, 2, and 3 will control how much wattage goes to your throttle. So 0 will leave it at full power, so I have mine at 0. I didn't mess with any of the other numbers. I just want it to be full power all the time. C5, again, another power setting, is your power ramp up. So this goes everywhere, I believe. I don't know if it starts at 0 or 1, but it goes up to, I think, 10. Now, yeah, 10 is the highest. So 4 is the factory setting. So this is another one. C5 is one that you will change. Like I said, most of these will already be set this way because you're not going to change them. But all the power ones, you can adjust them as necessary. This one was set to 4, which is standard. So it'll ramp up fairly slowly and consistently at 4. At 10, it's going to make you basically want to wheelie off the line. Now, this could be a little harder on the motor. It could be a little harder on the gears. But I want to be able to have the full power all at once. It doesn't mean you have to twist all the throttle all at once, but how quickly it allows that energy into the motor is limited by what this setting is set to. So at 10, it's going to let it all out. If you fully throttle it, it's going to let all the power go all at once. Now the C6 is the screen brightness. So 5 is the max. I have it set to 5. You could put it lower if you'd like. Maybe it'll save a little bit of energy, but I can't imagine it's going to matter that much on a battery of this size. C7 is cruise control. So 0 is off and 1 is on. So I have mine set to 1. Now to activate cruise control, I believe you hold the consistent speed for, I can't remember exactly how long, but you're going to want to hold that, I think it's the down button, which is the same one that initiates the walk mode. But if you're riding and you have a consistent speed going for, I think, 3 seconds, you hold that down button and that should activate cruise control. I'm not 100% sure that's how it's activated, but I believe that was what it said in the manual. C8, C9, and all these other C's here on, you don't really need to change them. That's why they have a star next to them, but I'll go over them briefly. C8 is your motor sensor for temperature. Now this was set to 1 on mine, but it doesn't have a motor sensor temperature, so that's going to be irrelevant. If you leave it on, it may give you just an ambient temperature, but you already have a thermometer, so you're going to see the ambient temperature anyways. There is no motor temperature in this motor, from what I've heard. So going to C9, this one is for password. So 0 is no password and 1 is if you want a password. Be careful if you set this to 1 and you set a password, because if you forget the password, you won't be able to use the bike. And as far as I understand, Wired is not able to assist you if you have a password because they don't know the password. I don't think there's any way to go around that. So be careful putting a password on there. Definitely write it down somewhere safe that you won't lose it and forget it. C10 is a factory reset. So you want to leave this set to no, but if you ever do want to set all of these back and start over, set it to yes and hit enter and it will immediately reset all of the values. C11 is if you want to copy the controller settings to another bike or another controller. I don't know exactly why you'd want to do that. You could just pull the two bikes next to each other and set them equally. But I guess there's a way to somehow, I'm sure you need a cable or something, to be able to send this these settings over to another bike directly. Okay, so going forward to C12, this is the voltage cutoff. So the lower the number, you're gonna see a lower voltage, and the higher the number, you're gonna see a higher voltage. So basically, this is set to 4. That's where it's been set to factory. You could put it lower to like 2 or 1 if you want to be able to run the battery down lower. And you can set it higher if you want the voltage to cut off sooner. Now that'll give you less battery life, or it'll give you less time. How should I word this? The battery will cut off sooner if you have it set higher, if that makes sense. So it'll turn off at a higher voltage. If you set it lower, it's going to let the battery run longer to a lower voltage, which could, you know, I don't know if you want to change this one because it could damage the battery if you run too low on voltage. 4.0 is set to factory, so that's where I'm leaving it. C13, this one is for regen braking. Now there's no regen braking on this bike, so I have it set to 0. I believe from factory it's set to 0. You don't need it on. C14 is another power setting. Now this is the pedal assist tuning 1 through 3. So this, I believe, as far as I understand, will allow you to have more power for your pedal assist quicker, kind of like the throttle setting. So this will allow it to ramp up quicker. I have it set to 2 because, you know, there's not many times where I'm gonna, you know, immediately want it to kick in with pedaling. Whereas if I need immediate throttle, I'm gonna pull the throttle itself. C15 is a motor protocol. You don't want to change this. Again, this is specific to the hang time motor. 6 is where you want it set to, and I believe that's factory as well. Now this last one here is L1, L2, L3, and L4. There is no information directly from Wired on this, and they said that it depends on what kind of bike you're using this particular controller with, and these menu options are not used on this bike in particular. So it's unknown and it's not used, so you don't have to change it, but you want those set to 0, 0, 0, and 5. All right, and that's it. So if you appreciate this and you found any value from it, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And leave a comment as well. If you have a bike, what color did you get? How have you had fun using it? Has it had any problems? Did you have any issues during shipping? And thanks for watching. I'm just going to do a really slow scroll over this so that if you want to stop the video, you can on any of these spots here, and you should be able to read that or zoom in if you're on your phone. I know some people watch on a TV, so what I'm going to do is also put up a screenshot as well. It won't be zoomed in quite as much because I can't get the whole shot in at once, but I just wanted you to be able to have this for your records. Thanks for watching.